Welcome to Real Talk with Gary. If you are listening to this show, that means you are either searching or ready to make a financial change in your life. This show is not only about real estate investing, but also the importance of mindset and the roadmap to a better, healthier life. Learn the daily routines of successful entrepreneurs and the latest market strategies and trends to stay ahead of the curve. Ready for some down-to-earth, north of the border Canadian talk? Here's your host, Gary Hibbert.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in for another Real Talk with Gary. And on today's episode, we're going to be talking to my family doctor, Dr. Carlos Yu, and he runs his own practice, self-management education, and a support group to prevent and manage chronic physical and mental conditions. So very, very busy man. Now, before we jump right into it, please do me a favor. Visit my website at smarthomechoice.ca to learn about all of our upcoming events. And when you're there, just enter in your email address. And by doing that, you're going to get a free copy of my book on the Smart Guide to Real Estate Investing, which was a particular strategy that I first really got hooked into, which was on rent to own. And also you're going to get a guide on how to screen tenants absolutely free. Now, one of the main reasons why I continue to do these podcasts is the education part of it. I really love that. And these podcasts are focused on real estate investing, wealth creation, mindset, and staying healthy. And on today's show, I had the chance to sit down, like I said, with Mr. Carlos Yu. And one of his missions is to help his clients get off of modern day medicine, also to help his clients who are suffering from addictions, and really to help them take back control of their lives. And on this call, we talked about a number of different things. We obviously talked about addictions, the major cause of this issue that grips so many people, the cycles of addictions, and really, how to stop it before it happens, or to see some of the symptoms before it starts to spiral out of control. The importance of getting to the root cause of addiction and how to do it, how to improve the performance of your mind through one simple task. We also got into the issues of social media and, maybe how it should be used. And we talked about so much more. This was a very in-depth conversation. I absolutely loved it. And I think you guys are going to love it as well, too. So like I always say, sit back, relax, grab a coffee, and whatever else it is that kind of helps get you into the mood, and take a time out and enjoy today's show. And until next time, take care, and I'll talk to you soon. Okay, so on the call today on our show, we've got Carlos Yu. Carlos, thank you very much for joining us.
Oh, awesome. Okay, well, thank you very much. Go ahead.
For anybody that's listening, Carlos Yu is he's actually my family doctor. And every time, I go into his office, we have, I would say, probably the most interesting conversations. I think you have a pretty good understanding of what it is that I do, a lot of real estate investing, and I got the club and really enjoy helping people. And then, I know that you do a lot of classes as well, too, which is, I think a little bit different from what the regular doctor does, where, you're really focused on running a clinic to help people with meditation, nutrition, and really just kind of living a well-balanced life or the best life possible, and that's why I really wanted you on the show today.
Well, thank you very much for having me on the show, because what it is that I've been practicing medicine for the last almost 30 years now. This year will be 30 years, family practice. And I found that for the most part of it, I have been sort of targeting problems as they arise, treating things that are broken. But I always felt like, there's something that's missing. Like, how can I feel like the whole big piece is to prevent people from getting sick in the first place. It's something in which I've never invested enough energy and time. So I've been really, really looking at this question. How can I spend a bit more time with the patient, or do it in such a way that's going to target problem that's going to come downstream, instead of just targeting only the problem that's broken. So, we've been doing a lot of teaching. I've been focusing on creating a message which is like the common denominator of wellness, and to focus on those simple messages that's easy to adopt, that's easy to have a buy-in. And I've been doing this in a group setting. So anyways, thank you so much for this chance to share. I think part of being well is to know something to apply to my own person, to share with my patients, and not only with my patients, but with my community, because after all, my patients are part of their community, part of their family. So I welcome any opportunity to share this message and welcome any kind of feedback. So thank you very much.
Yeah. No, thank you. And so I think the last time we had talked, we were trying to figure out what do we want to talk about on this show. And I think we thought that it makes sense maybe to start off with, what causes addiction? Because I think that's something that is a fairly big issue in today's society. And why don't we maybe kind of start off with that? What causes addiction?
Okay, well, addiction right now is a big issue. There's a lot of limelight on addiction because of all the recent strings of opioid death. Has become the number one cause of death for like the working group of people with highly productive, that highly productive age group that are dying. It's number one cause right now. It's staggering to see how many opioid deaths are happening. I don't have the stats with me right now. So I think, so upon reflection about this idea, like what is addiction? So I thought, I actually gave a talk to a whole bunch of doctors just recently. It was more of an interactive forum. So I asked them, what do they think addiction is? I just want to get a gauge what people thought addiction was. So the ideas that came back from the family docs was that somebody mentioned something. They said addiction is that can be applied to anything. I said, no, that's interesting. Okay. It can apply to anything. So it got me thinking. So can we be addicted to sugar, for example? Can we be addicted to, of course, the standard stuff, the things that's outwardly obvious, right? Things like, opioids, things like alcohol, things like cigarette. Everybody will agree that's an addiction. But what about workaholism? Is that addiction? Or what about addiction of being right or perfectionism? Is that an addiction? So that got me thinking. So is that something which, now, I don't know my audience here very well, but do you think, Gary, that's something people would be interested in if we maybe go down that path? Talk about what addiction is?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, look, sometimes I even, look at what I'm doing on my day-to-day activity, and I feel sometimes I think I'm addicted to my work. And maybe that is an addiction where maybe it's something that I've got to look at or really kind of step back and take a hard, look at to say, hey, am I addicted to this? Is it a problem or is it not a problem?
Okay. Yeah. So, the other words that came up when I did the flip charts, when I asked people to give me enough words, which in their mind, in this family doctor's mind, that represented addictions. So other words came up. Words such as needs, real needs, words such as substitutes, things like craving, things like loss of control, things like compulsion, things like loss of regards for consequences. All these words came up. Okay. By the way, that is a standard definition in a medical book. If you look up dictionaries and you look up what is addiction, 4 words comes up. They call the 4 C's of addiction. 1 is craving. 2 is compulsion, to meet that craving, to relieve that craving. Number 3 is loss of control. No longer can control. Do it in spite of. 4th thing is consequence. Instead of adverse consequence to their own body, to their family, to things which are dear to them, against their better judgment. So the 4 C's of addiction. So that is what the definition will be. That's being thrown around in the medical community and also in the mental health sphere. That is the definition. Now, I think, I think addiction, okay, just a few elements to addiction. Number 1, I think there's a commonality is that there's a true need that needs to be met. Now, when that need is not met, if someone meets the need with something which is not the true need, but with a substitute, which can be, let's say, a shortcut, okay, something easy, then that can cause a temporary relief of a craving. But unfortunately, because it's a substitute, the craving, although it's met temporarily, very quickly redevelops. So that craving now needs to be met again. Now, unless it's met with a real need, it's going to continue. So this is addiction cycle of craving, meeting it with a shortcut or a quick solution or quick fix or a substitute, and then consequently causing more craving, and finally the cycle becomes stronger and stronger. And that is the cycle of addiction. So this can be, let's say, for instance, alcohol. It could be nicotine. It could certainly be sugar, a sugar addiction. And I think that is sort of what is the most commonly accepted type of addictions. And then there's ones which you mentioned, Gary, things like being such as addiction to work. Now, that's something I can totally relate to. Okay, so something.
I'm not alone. I'm not alone.
This came up to me. I think, I've been running this group and I've been very successful. The patients, they thank me and they say, Doc, you're doing such a great job. And I feel wonderful. But the other day, and now I felt like over the summer after I run it for a while, I always felt on the weekends when I wasn't working, I felt a sense of law, right? And I feel like, I just feel uncomfortable. And I'm thinking, I got to keep myself busy. But one day I decided, you know what? I'm just going to really, really look into this discomfort, find out what is really going on. So I kind of did a bit of soul searching and I realized maybe, just maybe, okay, I'm escaping from something with my work. And when I don't have my work, I feel like a sense of unsettledness. So Gary, does that make any sense to you?
No, it does.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
And I think maybe just to even highlight that, and I think by the time this podcast comes out, people will soon find out that I actually broke my leg last weekend, actually my ankle. And I can tell you that I actually went into we talked about this, Carlos, a real depression on Sunday. I broke it a Saturday night, and it almost felt as if my life was over because, I'm a realtor. I have to drive to make an income. And so it maybe may really take a look at my life and say, oh my God, maybe I really am too addicted to what it is that I'm doing, where I've now go into this deep depression. And I don't know. I guess maybe the next question is, how do you know if you're an addict?
Okay, well, that's a good question. So I think one thing I've learned, okay, is there's three things that patient comes to see me for. Okay, it's always those three things. It's either pain, physical pain. Two, I would say suffering. I'm going to call that emotional suffering. They feel down, they feel depressed, they feel anxious, they're having relationship issues, all right? Some sort of suffering, right? Three, illness, actual physical or mental conditions. So those are three things. And I find that each one of those things are ways which my body or the patient's body is telling them something about what's happening. So, this thing you mentioned, Gary, over the weekend with, a sense of depression. Now, feeling kind of lost. That's the same feeling which I felt. Right? So I think, I think one of the things I tell my patients is when those feelings happen, it's very important that if that happens to me, I don't run away from that feeling. I look deeply into that sensation, that suffering, that pain, and that illness, and ask myself, what is it really that's causing it? What is the root cause of it? And I feel like this is an important exercise to go through. Because without knowing what the true cause is, I'm liable to simply block it, maybe run away from the problem, and miss out on the opportunity actually discovering perhaps a true need that's not met. Right? So in the case of my experience is that when I felt that lull on the weekends compared to, let's say, the highs I feel from helping people, I think that lull, in my case, I think represents this inability for my mind to stop. I feel like my mind wants to keep busy all the time. And it's that inability to stop my mind, which seems to be the root of my problem. Does that mean anything, Gary?
It does. And so I think just kind of going back to what you're saying, like in regards to me on Sunday and how I was feeling depressed, and we had this conversation yesterday in regards to this, was that what people need to do is when they're feeling like that is to sit in the moment or the day or however long it's taken place and not run from it or not go to a drug to try to stop it or to make yourself feel better. I'm in it. what can I learn from this, and how can I use this to, I guess, change my life, or to maybe move my life in a different direction, right? Because and just to add to that as well too is that, if that didn't happen, I probably wouldn't went to your class yesterday,
Yeah.
where we talked about more on depression and addiction, and we got into some meditation. And I'm coming to your meditation class tomorrow. I would not have done that if it wasn't for my broken ankle, right? And maybe there was a way of the universe making me slow down. I don't know.
And I think it's wonderful. I think I asked you, I say, so what's your reflection with this experience? You mentioned, I think, 3 things to me, which I remember. The first thing you mentioned is that it's like you say, it's as if the universe is giving you a chance to take a break from your sort of routine, which is rather a busy schedule, as I understand, and to have a moment of reflection. So the first thing you were grateful for that opportunity. And the second thing you mentioned, that you appreciate for what you have, the things that we often take for granted. You say, like things like walking, for example, right? Running, to be able to just get up and enjoy your physical good health. And all of a sudden you're stopping your tracks and you say, wait a minute here, can't take this for granted. so in a way,
right,
when your ankle, of course, will recover one day, and that's, it's a different perspective. And what was the third thing you mentioned? The third thing was, you already mentioned it, right? To give you a chance to actually come out and say, look, have a discussion, and it turned out to be a wonderful session. You were able to join me. It was a snow day, and it was good.
Yeah, to do something different that I normally wouldn't have done, right?
Yeah.
Now, would you consider addiction? Is it a disease, or is it something else?
Okay. Addiction is, addiction is a mental health problem, okay? A condition. The mental health condition, okay, this is my opinion. Mental health condition in general is quite different than a physical condition. A mental health condition, I would say by and large, is purely a software issue, okay? It can be reprogrammed. You could fix it, and then you would be, I would say then you could be even better than before. Sometimes the solution is really a new perspective, a new way of looking at things. So in the case of addiction, okay, well, in contrast to a physical problem sometimes cannot be repaired to its original condition. Let's say, for instance, Gary, if the bone gets broken, but very badly, you might be able to heal it at the most to its original condition. You cannot make it better, right? On the other hand, in the case of mental health condition, right, by having the right perspective, I often see people flourish. They've become better than ever. It's as if they've been stuck in their life all their life, and they're always being encumbered by certain perspective or lack of certain perspectives. Once they have this new perspective, all of a sudden they just blossom. And it's as if their life's experience of sort of being stuck or suffering has in fact prepared them to be in an even better place. Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah, it does. But I mean, how do they overcome the addiction? Is it a mindset? Is it, do they need help to get through that? Is it breathing techniques? Is it stillness? What is it?
Well, when a person comes to me, okay, now nowadays a lot of people do come to me. They say, Doc, what do you think about cannabis? Doc, I can't sleep. Can you give me a sleeping pill? Doc, I got lots of pain. Can you give me some painkillers? The orthopedic surgeon gave me a few painkillers, made me feel really good. My pain went down and I was sleeping better. Why don't you just give me some more painkillers, right? So my approach to any substances which are known to be addictive, such as cannabis, such as opioids, that's analgesics, such as benzodiazepines like sleeping pills, to me, the way my approach is, I ask the patient, I say, first of all, we must know what is the true need. Okay. By knowing the true need, we know the true solution. And by knowing the true solution, we can decide if we are going to use a substitute, and if we do use it, we need to know how we're going to get off it, right? So I always ask this question, what is the true need? So for instance, let's say Let's take cannabis. This is such common questions now. Because of cannabis being legalized, I have patients come to me. The other day I had a senior who comes to me and says, he's around 72 years old. Came in with his son. He says, I got a lot of back pain. I heard cannabis is really good. All right. Can I take some cannabis? Yeah. So we had a discussion. I say, okay, here, what is the true need? The true need is the need is to somehow treat your back pain, right? Now, we've sent you for CAT scan. We've sent you for x-rays. There's nothing sinister going on. It appears, my interpretation of your true need is that you're sitting too much. Ever since the winters come along, you've been sitting, you moved to a nursing home. People are bringing food to you instead of you going for the food, right? It seems like you're not getting enough exercise. Okay. That's my best interpretation. Okay? And you did mention when you do get up and walk around a little bit, you feel a little bit better, right? So the true need, it seems like your body's telling you that pain means you need more exercise. Right? Now, if that is the need, then anything else, such as cannabis, will be a substitute, right? Because cannabis doesn't make you exercise, doesn't give you the activity you need. So if we use cannabis as a substitute, you will relieve your pain, yes, but that is a shortcut. So two problems happens when we use a shortcut as a substitute. One is that we haven't fixed your real problem, which is the need to exercise. Two is that cannabis, like all substances, have side effects, right? You might become more stumbly, you might lose your balance, you might fall and hit your head, for instance. That would be a very serious side effect. And the fact that you're not walking as much might make you even weaker by the end of the winter session. By the springtime comes, you might find yourself, the body have deteriorated further. So that is the second problem. And the third problem is sometimes with any substance of addiction, eventually, sometimes you can't, for instance, like people who are on opioids, eventually a doctor says, your dose is escalated, it's too high, we can't use it no more. And what happens is now you're prone to using a substitute. Because at one point, perhaps cannabis is not going to get rid of your back pain. And then what are you going to do at that point? The pain is so bad and you become weak enough that you no longer can exercise, then you might feel like you have to use an opioid. So a substitute that seems to be a little bit not so dangerous at first can lead you into a substitute which is more dangerous with even more side effects. And all the meantime, the real needs are not being met. When the real needs not being met, it has serious consequences. That makes sense?
So it sounds like essentially just not getting to the root cause.
That's right.
They're getting, so for example, let's say now somebody who's diabetic. So, we all need nutrition to eat a well-balanced diet. But then I guess with somebody who's diabetic, they get hungry and then they, fix that craving with sugar, which is a temporary relief. Then they get hungry again. And instead of going to nutrition, they go back to the sugar. Is that correct? Am I understanding that piece properly?
I'm glad you asked
this
nutrition. Question. This is fantastic. This is a very important topic right now. 30% of Ontarians, I think most of Canadians, Ontarians no worse than the rest. The 30% of Ontarians are either diabetic or pre-diabetic. It is an epidemic. And so the way I would fit this into the addiction model I just described to you would be the real need here is good nutrition. Our body has a need for real nutrition, good solid nutrition. And good nutrition is not just sugar. It's sugar, it's the vitamins, it's the minerals, it's the protein. But the largest group that's missing that we don't know about are the flavonoids. Now, a lot of people don't know what the flavonoids are yet, but you're going to hear a lot more about the flavonoids. The flavonoids are the nature's medicine, and where they are found in one of our food groups, which is often missed. These flavonoids, there's 8,000 of them now. The number of research on them are exponential. They're antiviral, antifungal, antibacterial. The antidepressants, they are anti-inflammatories. They are anti-diabetic, anti-cholesterol, and they are anti-mutagenic and anti-neoplastic, and also they are anti-oxidative or anti-degenerative. So they are able to prevent almost all chronic diseases. And this food group is called the flavonoids, and they're contained in the green, non-starchy vegetables. They're contained in the non-starchy vegetables. So our body becomes hungry. We only have one signal when we're missing any of those components. We have only one signal. So no matter which one we're missing, we'll feel hungry. Now, what happens is if this food group is missed, a person will always feel hunger. That can only be met with, let's say, for instance, carbohydrates or sugars for a very short period of time. And soon the craving will return. So if the person is not aware of the need for this, of the real need, what is missing in their diet, they will continue to eat the carbohydrates and the body will continue to want something more. And this cycle will cause excess consumption of carbohydrates, which is the cause of type 2 diabetes. And this is why 30% of Ontarians are now either pre-diabetic or diabetic. And this is an absolute healthcare disaster.
What are some of the, sorry, go ahead.
So the problem here is absolutely is because we are not aware what the true needs are. The true need here is a whole spectrum of nutrients, and the part that's missing is the non-starchy vegetable class. Now, the newest Canada Food Guide 2019 was just published on January 22nd. It tells us just that 50% of our food must be non-starchy vegetables. Some fruits, but beware of too much fruits, because fruits, any more than 2 servings of fruits, increase the risk of type 2 diabetes. And this WHO, that's World Health Organization, teaches the same message, but they're even more exact. They're saying that we need 400 grams of non-starchy vegetables. A little bit of fruits, but not too much. Same message. That's by the WHO.
And what are the flavonoids, Carl? Yeah, and what are some of the flavonoids, Carlos? So for anybody that's listening, that they can start putting this in their diet tomorrow.
Okay, non-starchy vegetables. Any non-starchy vegetables are good. So basically, any vegetables you can think of, but exclude corn, carrots, peas, and roots vegetables like sweet potatoes and potato. Now, I want to make it clear. It's not that you can't eat the starchy vegetables, but do not count them in the calculation. So in other words, let's say you were to eat 400 grams of non-starchy vegetables. You make sure you eat that. And the rest of it is up to you. You can still eat the rest of the food. But this non-starchy group is the critical dosage is 400 grams. And basically for every 100 grams, there's 4.4 grams of flavonoids of different sorts. So if you multiply 4.4 by 400 grams of non-starchy vegetables has 17.6 grams of flavonoids. And by eating a variety of vegetables, you're guaranteed to have all the 6,000 flavonoids, and you will get all the diseases covered. This is critical nutrition. This is the substrate to a healthy immune system. A healthy immune system prevents illnesses, prevents infections, colds, funguses, viruses. By having the right substrate for your immune system, the immune system will prevent all the autoimmune disorders, such as type 1 diabetes, such as thyroid disorders, such as inflammatory bowel disease, such as asthma, such as eczema, such as psoriasis, such as rheumatoid arthritis. Right. And by having the right substrate for your healthy immune system, you also prevent all the cancers. And this
I was going to say, and so could you give us 5 or 6, just so that, somebody goes to the grocery store tomorrow, they can throw 5 of those in their basket right away? Like, what are the top 5? I would assume kale is up there.
Kale is right there. Spinach is good. And collard green, rapini, dandelion when you can get them, excellent. Of course, broccoli is always a favorite for many, many people. That's a great one to start, broccoli. Okay? Brussels sprout is also very popular with people. They're green and leafy. Now, those are the green ones. Any green leafy ones, I know people from the islands, they like the callaloo, right? I know it's very, very popular. And there are beet tops you can get around here. Now, if you go to the Chinese grocery store, there's bok choy. There's all kind of Chinese vegetables which are very nice. And I can't even name them all, I'm afraid. I don't even know them in Chinese.
But that's a good start, though.
But that's the green part.
But
it's okay. You can also have peppers, right? The different color peppers.
Yep.
The red cabbage is red. The red color is good because they have different nutrients in them. And radicchio, right? You can have also the tomatoes. All very, very good. So you want a variety, other color ones, even eggplants. You want to get a non-starchy class. And it's good to have a variety.
Okay.
Herbs. All the herbs are good. All the herbs. Sage, oregano, all wonderful. They all have medicinal properties. Tea, green tea is very good. Right? So having all the plant-based types of foods, you guarantee you have all the flavonoids. The green tea has lots of flavonoids. Oh, one more thing. For people who are very interested, look into it more. It's very easy. Go to Google these days. You put in the word flavonoids, F-L-A-V-O, flavonoids, okay? F-L flavonoids, okay? And then you put in any condition you wish to look up, whether it's multiple sclerosis or diabetes. You just look it up. Erectile dysfunction, okay? The other day I just found a huge correlation between erectile dysfunction and the lack of vegetable intake. And vein problems, dementia. And for any listeners who have seniors, parents at home, very important. They have done a study of, they went to a nursing home, they surveyed the diet, and they separated the two groups. They have the people who eat very little vegetables. It was basically less than 1.2 servings vegetables per day, right? They were not eating very much. And the people who ate more than 1.2 servings, there was a difference of 11 years in psychometric testing of the memory. 11 years. Unbelievable.
And I would that is incredible. And I would also assume then now, just, moving into this particular topic here, that nutrition probably has a strong tie to addiction as well, too. Correct? Like if you don't have that well-balanced meal or, the flavonoids getting into your body.
Oh, absolutely. So there's the addiction to sugar, okay? To eating the wrong food. For example, you can be addicted to processed food. And, by not having the proper flavonoids, I am a sitting duck for all kinds of substitutes. And there's no end to number of substitutes that I can use instead of eating properly. When I feel hungry, I might smoke more. If I'm hungry, I might drink more. If I'm smoking, I might eat the sugars. I might eat more processed food. I might just not be able to, stop or create that work-life balance I need because my mind is so flustered, not working properly. I don't know. I become less efficient at work, and consequently, I find that I'm spending even more time working. So there's all kinds of substitutes that can become my reality when I'm missing what my body truly needs.
Right. So then, okay. So obviously, I think there's two pieces here, or two main parts to the human, right? Which is the mind and the body, correct?
Yes.
So we talked about the body and what the body needs, and obviously, I think you've made incredible sense here that it's nutrition. Without the nutrition, it can lead to addiction, and not eating correctly can cause some serious, significant issues. What about the mind? Can we elaborate a little bit more on the mind now?
Absolutely. The addiction, another fundamental component of addiction. The first one is a need being met by a substitute. Now, who is choosing the substitute? It's the mind. It's the mind that's making the substitute. The mind decides that, you know what? Instead of meeting the real need, I'll just take a substitute. It's an easier way to do it. Instead of, let's say, getting up exercise, I prefer to use a bit of cannabis. Then it'll ease my muscle pain. I don't have to exercise. So the mind makes a choice somewhere along the line, whether knowingly or unknowingly. So I think the root of addiction, right, is in order to actually truly understand addiction, we have to, I think mind, thoughts, it's a critical piece. So for instance, if I was a smoker, imagine if I get this craving, like I feel a little jittery, and I say, okay, I know what works, my cigarette. So I'm reaching for my cigarette, right? Now let's say I'm trying to quit smoking. Now, if I can simply get my mind off the cigarettes, I distract myself with something else. I can forget my cigarettes. Even for 30 seconds, that urge will actually fizzle out, according to scientists. Right? If I can simply distract myself for 30 seconds. But that is not always easy for people who are smokers, which makes smoking one of the hardest things to quit. I think the challenge, the linchpin, is how to get the mind off the cigarettes for 30 seconds. Or let's say I've eaten dinner already and I'm opening the fridge. Okay. Why have I opened the fridge? I eat dinner already. It's a habit. The mind is thinking about the fridge. The mind is, so how can I get my mind off that onto something else that's more healthy? So it seems to me the ability to pay attention is a critical piece. Ability to be able to switch attention from subject to subject. Have you ever felt days when you get really tired and your mind just feel like sluggish? You know, maybe you start like a Netflix, you're thinking, I shut this down, right? Go to bed. But except the mind doesn't want to stop. The mind keeps going. And,
right.
or it could be, let's say in a conversation. Sometimes I get, I think, we should change the subject because this subject's going nowhere, right? People are getting a little bit uptight and, this is not going to help at this moment. But
right.
I can come back and talk about this another time. But sometimes the mind just gets stuck and it doesn't work. So seems to me, the ability to switch attention or pay attention, to focus attention is a very critical piece. In fact, I've done over the last year since I've been teaching this group, one of the things we teach is meditation. Now, meditation is something which is very, very, let's say it's coming into great awareness. Just today, I was talking to a teacher, a patient of mine. She teaches grade school and she manages a very difficult class. And she started to ask her children to meditate 15 minutes at the beginning of every day. And it has shown such wonderful results. Other teachers in her school are following suit. They're doing the same thing. So we've been teaching this thing about meditation, right? In the groups with my patients. And I found out to be a very effective way to manage people with anxiety, with depression, with insomnia, to help people deal with very difficult thoughts, sometimes with losses, with feelings of regret, with feelings of fear. So that's something, or even with smoking cessation, has been a very powerful way. It's a way that can be used to improve the ability to focus, pay attention, and to be able to switch attention from one subject to another subject.
So it's just being able to quiet the mind and I guess to kind of channel that energy in maybe potentially a different direction. Is that part of meditation?
Yes, it is. In fact, over the last 12 years, the scientists invented what's called a functional MRI. Now they can actually measure. They actually have found a part of the brain that its sole job is to decide what the brain is going to pay attention to. And so this part of the brain is called the cingulate gyrus. This part of the brain can actually be trained through meditation. They have found that monks who have spent a lot of time meditating, they have a very well-developed cingulate gyrus. Whereas young people who have the average young college-age student that haven't been trained, they have great difficulty paying attention. And that part of the cingulate gyrus is actually very small. They also have been able to show through a very short course of training, this part of the cingulate gyrus can actually grow. This part of the brain, that sole job is to pay attention.
So it's a muscle. I mean, you can, it's almost like a muscle, like you have like a bicep. You can train this muscle to quiet itself or to meditate and to maybe potentially even get yourself out of depression, correct?
Oh, absolutely. We have done a bunch. We have found in our groups that within about 4 or 5 sessions of attending the group, that their anxiety score, we have this global anxiety score that we measured every single session, drops literally 50%. They just feel more calm. The reason they feel more calm is that now they have a way of managing their thoughts. So most of the depression and anxiety disorder, just like any kind of addiction, has to do with the thoughts not being able to switch gear, get stuck.
Right.
If a thought is stuck on fear, usually it's anxiety. If it's stuck on shame, it's stuck on, let's say, losses and sad things, usually becomes depression. If the thought doesn't want to stop, it causes insomnia. If the thought is stuck on, let's say, cigarettes, then it becomes a habit of smoking. If it gets stuck on alcohol, it becomes a habit of drinking. If it gets stuck on work and you can't switch gear, honey, come, like, if, let's say my wife asks me to go for dinner, go out to eat dinner, and I say, let me just finish my work, right? And, that doesn't usually go down very well, it's like, I need to be able to switch gear.
Right.
So the ability to switch is a very powerful thing. And this is something that can actually be trained, no different than a physical workout. This is a mental workout. And the beautiful thing about it is very simple. It's totally accessible. It can be done anytime, anywhere. And the purest form of meditation I have found so far is what's called a breath awareness meditation. In short, it's called BAM, B-A-M. And this is the most accessible, the most powerful, most proven form of meditation. Other meditations also work, but this meditation, I believe, it's probably the easiest thing to learn by most people. And also it's something which can be done anytime. Because meditation.
And you know what?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, and you know what? Because we did that yesterday in your class, and just that little bit that I did it definitely helped. And so I told you before we started the calls that I actually went this morning to get my ankle reset. Oh man, let me tell you the pain. But I listened to what you told me, and I concentrated on just the breathing, and I got through it.
Wow.
And it was literally 2 minutes of this guy yanking on my ankle and trying to reset it straight. And then, thankfully they did the x-ray, and you know what? And it was perfect. And he looked at me and said, I don't know how you actually kind of survived that, but I was yanking to get this thing, because if not, we may have had to have done surgery. So, thanks for teaching me BAM. And I'm definitely looking forward to doing it again, because it definitely helped me through that. That breathing technique 100% helped.
You're an amazing learner, Gary. I'm just so pleased to hear you say that. It's fantastic. And I just want to tell a little story. I went to Vipassana. It's a silent retreat. For those people who don't know what a silent retreat is, you go there for 10 days and you sit there and you don't talk to anyone. It's called a noble silence. And for 10 days, they feed you, they house you, and you simply meditate. So I lasted all of 2 days. I didn't make it all 10 days, but for a reason I shall explain to you another time. But for those 2 days, I had the most amazing experience. 20 hours of meditation. I felt like things changed. It's like my brain was reprogrammed. Things are so much easier now for me to switch. So this is why I want to finish up next 80 hours, because the Vipassana is supposed to be 100 hours. So I did my 20 hours. So next 80 hours, I'm doing this. As you know, Gary, I'm starting running on Tuesday morning, 8 to 9, and Thursday, 8 to 9 for anybody who wants to join me. And through the next year, or maybe the next 30 weeks or so, I'm going to try to finish up the next 80 hours. And I think this has become something I personally believe will do me wonders to help me do more with less time. I think it's going to be a wonderful thing. Now,
and you're doing this every Tuesday and Thursday, you said?
Yeah, Tuesday morning, 8 to 9, in the morning. And now, for people who are new to meditation, I would suggest that they come to my Tuesday afternoon class, either the 1 o'clock class or the 3 o'clock class. And they're both an hour and a half. There I can spend a little bit more time explaining the mechanism. And otherwise, coming for a long meditation on Tuesday morning and Thursday morning might be too much for somebody who is not familiar with meditation. I just want to mention one more thing to you, Gary, with regard to the pain. I met this fellow. He's a retired college professor from Durham. I met him at the silent retreat, and he says to me, I asked him this question. He was there for the third time. I'm thinking, why would anybody come back for the third time, right? So he says, I've discovered things about what I could do that I couldn't. If I told you, you think I'm crazy. I say, okay, go ahead, But he says, I'll tell you because I think doctors have an open mind. But he doesn't know about doctors, obviously. But anyways, he told me anyways. Okay.
Right.
So he says, he injured himself pretty badly, on a couple of occasions, an accident. And he was able to just make his pain disappear through meditation. Now, I don't want people to have that same expectation. I think different people have different abilities and they take it to a different level. So I think I only mentioned this story because what you just said, Gary, that you were able to get through a difficult situation through meditation. And one more thing I should mention is that meditation was brought into the North American medical culture by a gentleman's name. His name is John Kabat-Zinn. Now, he's a psychologist at Boston Medical School. He brought it in because the opioid crisis is not just starting today. It's been with us for decades. He brought it in to help patients manage chronic pain. It's called mindfulness-based stress reduction. That's how they brought it in, or chronic pain management. Mindfulness-based chronic pain management. That was the reason why it was brought into the mainstream of medicine. But now it's being used to treat many things. But it is for pain control. That's when it was brought in. They needed something other than opioids to manage chronic pain. Because using opioids to manage chronic pain is a slippery slope. More often than not ends up in some form of strong addiction with severe consequences.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely a huge issue in our society today. I just wanted to switch gears a little bit here, and I know we're getting close to the end here, and the information has been incredible so far. But what about? I want to touch on social media. And we live in this world now where we're so connected that you would think that there shouldn't be any, depression. But with the social media and Facebook and Instagram and all these things that are out there in this world today, it feels like people are so much more disconnected. Do you have any thoughts on that, or what's causing this?
I would say in the case of social media, it's like any technology. It's a tool allowing people to connect with each other. No different than telephone, no different than drop by for a coffee. The difference is that it's readily available. It's an incredible tool. In fact, allows me or allows you, Gary, for example, to reach so many people, podcasts through, let's say, your Facebook page. It's an incredible tool. Now, I don't think social media is the problem. Okay. I think, for example, the car is not the reason why there is obesity from lack of exercise. It's the choice of when to use the car. Right? I want to use the car when I have a place to go. But if I got to go corner store, if I realize I need exercises, I need to leave the car on my driveway and go for a walk. Right? So how we use the tool makes a big difference. Now, I think car can be abused. We drive too much when we should be walking. And so can social media be abused. There are times when it's not time to log on to social media. Maybe there's a time to converse with the family, converse with the person sitting across you at the dining table versus using the social media. So I think it can certainly be misused. I feel like social media are gifts that we've created for ourselves. But with every gift, we have given an option. That is to use it properly or to misuse it. I think social media, like any gift, can be misused. And why, and I think, I want to just highlight, why is it that people sitting at the table. Sometimes you watch people in the restaurant and everybody's got a cell phone out. Nobody's talking to each other. Why do they even bother coming together for a meal? Right?
Right.
So I think it's because sometimes paying attention to people who want to talk to you, who have something to share, takes a little bit more effort. Go onto the social media to check, what's going on, to read the news. Doesn't require as much effort. So when the mind is not able to focus, right, it automatically gravitates to the easiest solution. It's like, it takes hard work when I have to walk to the grocery store, to the corner store, so I'll drive instead. Pain. What do you mean meditate through the pain? I'll just take a painkiller instead. Huh? Or go grocery shopping, buy the vegetable that I really need. Or why don't I just, it's only one of the night, just go buy some fast food. And then, I'll go home and, I'll drink a glass of juice or something and I'll call that my vegetables. So it's shortcuts. Now with social media, it's the same thing. Sometimes, sitting in front of people, listening to people, have a conversation with the people takes effort. I have to listen for one thing. I have to respond. I have to listen, not just what's said, what is not said, what's really happening. That takes focus. The ability to focus is not easy. It's important for deep connections to really understand people. Social media, it's easy. Set it out, just have a look, post something. So I find myself doing this all the time. Sometimes I come home and I'm thinking I'm a little out of sorts. Okay, I've gone through my inbox. Okay, now I got my phone out. Sometimes I put my phone away and I say, you know what? No phone right now. For the next 15 minutes, no phone. I'll just sit here. It's like my thought doesn't want to stop. My thought wants to do something all the time. So he wants to grab the phone. He wants to flip something, he wants to touch something. Sometimes it just sits there for 15 minutes. In fact, just before you called, okay, Gary, I made the point.
Yep.
I want to rest my mind. I set my Insight timer. I use this app called Insight Timer. Okay. I put it on for 10 minutes. And I knew I had 10 minutes before you would call. So I sat there and I just paused. I did this breath awareness meditation. Oh, after 10 minutes, I was relaxed. It is a training. It takes a bit of focus. My mind wants to jitter around, fleet around, but after a while, it starts to calm down. Because I know when my mind is quiet, it's open to new ideas, it's able to respond properly. And I've been using this with my patients on a regular basis. Today, I think I taught 3 people that came to see me with certain distress in their life. I taught them how to use BAM, a technique that can easily help them, just like how it helped you, Gary, to deal with some of the difficult situations. I think it's a super powerful technique. I think it's going to become the next healthcare revolution. The first healthcare revolution has already come out. 2019, the new Canada food guy. For once, that food guy is super honest, 50% non-starchy vegetables. That's the first healthcare revolution. If that rule is followed, diabetes, we have found out will beat diabetes type 2. I have so many patients who follow that diet. They have gotten off the drugs, medications for diabetes. Their sugar has gone right back to normal. The diabetes has gone out to remission. That means the sugar is normal. Unheard of. And the second revolution, I think, is this breath awareness meditation. I see it happening everywhere in the schools. I see it happening in the media. I think, Gary, you will find that you're going to hear more and more about the pro athletes are using it, the big businesses are using it. And, I think I just want to say one more thing about the BAM is that the technique is important to properly learn the proper technique. And then second thing, of course, is like any exercise. Knowing the technique is one thing, but practice is the other piece.
Right.
And
so, yep, go ahead.
And I think that is the solution to addiction. I would say understanding what addiction is, first of all, having a clear understanding. 2, understanding how the tool of BAM can help is important. And number 3, have a good strategy how to wean off the substitute. Okay. In some cases, substitute cannot be stopped all of a sudden. It could be weaned off in some sort of a sensible way, to have a strategy how to wean it off. So those are the 3 things. number one is very important to realize. I think the number one thing is realize addiction is not anything to be ashamed of. Okay, why? Because addiction is a common humanity. My message to the patient is that you're not the only one addicted to something. Even your physician is addicted to something. Okay.
Yeah.
so stop judging yourself, right? And it's very important for physicians like myself to realize that this is a common humanity and to be able to share this perspective with their patients so that they realize that, you know what, we're in the same boat together. Nobody's judging anyone. It's the moment that we stop judging ourselves. I think that's the most powerful step. That is the first step to have an honest conversation about what is truly addiction is and what is a substitute and the ability and the solution which targets the ability for the individual to pay attention. And the solution, it's called a breath awareness meditation, and get a proper technique and form a strategy to practice, and time will bear great fruits. So what I'm going to do is I'm thinking about starting a meditation class to target smoking cessation. I think a lot of people, since the new year, I think they made a resolution. I think they're ready. A lot of people are ready to tackle smoking cessation. I think the way to tackle something like smoking cessation is to actually start with a ban, to improve the individual's ability to pay attention first. And then I think smoking cessation will become a manifestation, a consequence of an improved ability to focus. Because then nicotine is no longer necessary. The nicotine is a substitute. It's a stimulant to stimulate the brain to focus. If the person can already focus, then you wouldn't need the substitute.
Right.
So I'm excited to try this out. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, listen, for the people that are listening to this show, you guys heard it here first. Bam. Okay. Breath, awareness, meditation. It works. I've done it. I've tried it. And I guess also too, in regards to that social media, to kind of pull it back a bit. I mean, look, I think at the end of the day, too much of anything makes you an addict, right? And so I think really what you're saying there is just, to use it, in, small doses, right? Don't use it all the time. Use it as a tool, but don't be addicted to it. And I think a lot of people do become addicted to it, and especially when you see all those likes come through. Those are you see 10 likes and like, oh, come on, I got 10. Usually I get 50, and that can actually kind of cause, I guess, some depression as well too, right? So it's just being careful. So, Carlos, listen, that was really good. I learned a lot on this call this evening, and I'm sure everybody else did as well too. If anybody wants to learn more about what you do and maybe some of the blogs that you're doing, where can they go, or how can they get a hold of you?
I have a blog that I posted since December. There's probably about 80 different postings on it. It's it's called whatisharewithpatients.com. www.whatisharewithpatients.com. All in one word. So, yeah, please look me up. And it's I think part of being well is to be a role model, to discover how the message is best shared, and to share the message. I feel like it's something which is just part of being. Yeah.
I can't agree with you more. And that's exactly why I enjoy doing these shows, is to share the message. The more that I share, the more that allows for more information to come in, and I can continue to keep sharing it with my friends, with my family, and with my community. And who knows, maybe one day the world, maybe one day everybody will listen to Real Talk with Gary, right? So maybe your message can get out to the world as well too, because I think it's a great message. And I really do think that this BAM is going to start making some leaps and bounds. So yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Thank you so much, Gary. I really appreciate the opportunity, and hope we'll talk again.
Yes, for sure. And I will see you tomorrow morning at the meditation. I'm going to do some BAM with you. Okay.
Okay. Well, BAM on.
All right. Sounds good. So, Carlos, thanks again. I appreciate it. And we'll talk soon. Take care.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to today's show with Gary Hibbert. Please don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and connect with your host on Instagram @GaryHibbert. Until next time, stay mindful and remember, you don't have to be great to start. Just start, and you'll be on the path to being great.